What I want to hear is flesh out continuing the opportunity economy that she alluded to during the convention and going forward. That's a big focus on new business startups, the innovation economy. Here in Connecticut, we've started more new businesses in the last few years than ever before. And frankly, a lot of them are women and minority-owned businesses. Deal with also AI and advanced manufacturing and all the other places. It's a great time to be in the startup economy. I think that'll be our focus.
I hear the former president talking an awful lot about tariffs. He was in Savannah yesterday, talked about tariffs being a beautiful word, as he put it. There's a simplicity to him saying it over and over again. People might misapprehend what it means or what the consequences might be. Our understanding is the vice president's going to talk about targeted tax incentives today. A difficult term, I think, to sell to the American public. How does she do it? How does she convince Americans that this kind of industrial policy is going to be a benefit to them?
Look, I think tariff is another word for tax. It's a middle-class consumer tax, and you're going to be paying that in terms of higher inflation and higher costs. I think, Vice President Harris has a different strategy. Obviously, with incentives, she wants to help those small companies grow and expand, more of an ownership economy, opportunity to own your own company, and also, as you know, in housing, own your own home as well. It's good to have a stake in your community.
I want to ask you about how much time there is between now and the election. You're acutely aware of it. And there's a school of thought that it's too late in the game to change minds, that voters have made up their minds. Yes, we talk about these undecided voters, few as they are in these handful of states and districts. Are you one who believes that at this point, giving a speech like this, unveiling a plan that I gather is going to be about 80 pages long, is going to do work to do that people can still be convinced here 40 plus days till the election?
I get the idea that out of 300 million people, maybe there's 1 million that are still persuadable in 5 or 6 states. But I think Kamala Harris, you're going to see what she has in mind when it comes to manufacturing and jobs and opportunity. I think she's very entrepreneurial in that sense.
Taxation front and center in your backyard, as we had the former president traveling to Connecticut to talk about the reversal of something that he did.
Governor, we got to make this granular. Okay, we got to get granular. There's a house on North Street in Greenwich, Connecticut, that if Spielberg parachuted in, he'd say, we can use this, built in 1796, actually pretty reasonable by Connecticut standards, under $3 million. David, the property tax was rounded out to $25,207. Continue.
The former president talks about restoring the SALT deduction, which was capped when he was the president and his tax bill was pushed through. Help our listeners on Global Wall Street understand the significance of that decision that he and other Republicans made back then and the import of doing away with that cap.
Well, first of all, Tom, that house you referred to in Greenwich was probably $2 million 5 years ago. It is $3 million today. A lot of people moving into this state. But you're absolutely right, David. That SALT, reducing the deduction on that was very costly to states where we invest a lot in K through 12 education. That's reflected in property taxes. So raising that deduction level, which I think is something both Kamala Harris and former President Trump have talked about, would be very meaningful up here.
Governor, Tom often talks to me about the importance of knowing history, thinking about history. As Donald Trump makes his way through Long Island into your neck of the woods, do people remember who's responsible for putting that cap in place?
I think we'll be reminding them.